Hello, everyone. It is Monday, April 13th, and also National Scrabble Days for those of you in need of a quarantine activity. I'm Jen Stone from Source, and I'm going to give you a quick orientation of the webinar tool before I introduce our snack break guest today. You are muted automatically, but that doesn't mean we want to be the only ones doing the talking. So you all have access to a live chat where you can send a message or questions to the whole group. If you're having trouble with the audio or viewing the presentation, feel free to check the box to send privately. You can test out the chat now by dropping in your favorite emoji or let us know what you're snacking on. Feel free to chat in your questions anytime during the presentation. If we don't answer in real time, we'll make sure to cover it during our Q&A at the end of the presentation today. Also, the recording of this webinar will be sent to you right after we wrap up the presentation. So if you miss anything or if you want to share with a friend, you'll be able to do that. All right. I would like to introduce today's guest, Ben Deumling with Zena Forest Products. Ben is going to be showing us his new line of Wide Rustic Engineered Flooring. Hey there, Ben. Great to have you with us.
Hi there. Thanks so much for having me. This is great.
Yeah. I'm going to start by just letting everybody know that I'm snacking on some hard-boiled eggs left over from yesterday. And I'm going to just quickly show off some serious artistic work. There we go. So I might be snacking on those all week.
I've got my kid's Easter candy sitting next to me here.
Nice. Someone's got to eat it. I mean,
absolutely.
Save their teeth. Cool. Well, yeah, Ben, if you want to start us out. Yeah.
So my name is Ben, and along with my family, we run Zena Forest Products, and we're a sawmill and millwork operation. We're about an hour south of Portland, and we've been working with our local woods for over 30 years now in one form or another. And what we do is we manage a bunch of forest lands and also work with a lot of other landowners throughout the Willamette Valley, helping them manage their forests. So the basis of our business is really a forestry business and trying to find innovative ways to protect and restore and increase the forests of the Willamette Valley. We have some amazing forests here locally, and they're fairly forgotten and overlooked and keep disappearing, to be perfectly honest. And to that end, we run a sawmill and millwork operation where we take our local hardwoods and turn them into all sorts of beautiful things. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about today for the most part is what you see on the screen in front of you. This is our Wide Rustic Engineered Oregon White Oak flooring. And flooring is a lot of what we make, and it's a phenomenal product to make out of our local species. We have been making flooring for 12 years now, and we're constantly trying to improve our process and find ways to make higher quality and better flooring that works for more and more applications. So this is like I said, this is the Oregon White Oak. Oregon White Oak is sort of the iconic tree that grows here in the Willamette Valley. You see it in parks, you see it along the side of the roads, around old farms. 100 years ago or 200 years ago, the Willamette Valley was mostly Oregon White Oak, and there's only about 5% of that oak left. Most of it's disappeared, been cut down and replaced with other things. And we are trying to steward that resource and create a value for it, and in the hopes of creating incentives for people to plant more oak and take good care of their oak forest that they have. And one of the neat things about oak or our Oregon oak in particular, is it's not only really beautiful, it has all those classic oak looks that we have gotten to know. It has flake and fleck, those medullary rays, the quarter sawn oak that is very traditional. It has sort of the bright white sapwood, the deeper heartwood color. But our Oregon oak in particular is incredibly dense. It's the densest of all the North American oaks. It's one of the very densest of all the North American species in general. The only commercial species that's denser than Oregon oak is hickory, and hickory is only a couple points harder on the scale. So it's a phenomenal flooring species. It wears really, really well. You know, even in high traffic commercial spaces, retail spaces, it's so dense that, yeah, it has a very long lifespan. And yes, it will hold up very well to high heels. Yeah, so that's our Oregon oak. It's sort of our iconic tree of the valley. It's a primary species we work with here at the mill, and it's a really fun one. In addition to that, I realized on the slides here, I forgot to introduce my office buddy, Frances. She's the little black cat you see in the picture. She lives at the mill and spends most of her time on my lap in the office if I let her. And here she is on a log deck in the summertime. So she's definitely one of the employees at the mill, and spends a lot of time very close to us. So yeah, I'm going to switch to the next slide here and just give you a couple more shots of Oregon oak. Our wide rustic flooring, and I'll go into the other species here in a minute, we make in a 4 1/4, 5 1/4, and 6 1/4 face width. So you can see the close up next to the stove there. It's got fairly wide. It's a wide floor, which shows off in a better way than sort of the traditional narrow floors. Shows off a lot of the character that these trees have to offer. And that's what we really try to celebrate, is all the natural character, the knots and sap, heart, swirly grain patterns in the grain. Oregon oak has a lot of it, and we, you know, with the wider boards, we're able to show that off. And you can see the other picture there. That's an oak floor, and then also a custom kitchen islands made out of oak, our Oregon white oak. And jumping to the next picture here, you can see that's a retail space and it's a hotel space of some sort with the Oregon oak in it. I wanted to show you I have a couple samples here, and it's not super easy to see on the screen here, but you can see this is how our engineered flooring is made. You can see I have a solid piece of flooring here. This is sort of our 2 1/4 traditional solid floor, whereas over here we have a wider engineered floor. It's an engineered floor in that we have a 3/16 layer of hardwoods laminated onto Baltic birch. And that's really what I call, it's the best of both worlds floor. It's a way to still work with real woods. You have a nice thick wear layer that has an incredible, you have that durability, you have that lifespan that you expect from traditional hardwood floors, but you have the added stability of engineering that goes into this floor. That I'm a wood geek. I work on a sawmill, so bear with me. I'm going to be talking about some technical stuff, but it's important and relevant to this flooring here. Wood is a sponge. Wood will expand and contract with the seasons, with swings in humidity. Here in Oregon, we have high humidity in the winter, low humidity in the summer, and so wood will move. And when you have wider floorboards where you can show off all that cool character in the floor, if it's made out of a solid piece of wood, it's going to move a lot. It's going to be a very rustic, not flat floor with gaps in it. And we've come to expect perfect floors that are smooth, that you can slide across in with your socks, that are easy to maintain, easy to clean, easy to sweep, vacuum. And in order to maintain those very high quality floors that perform really well, that's where the engineering comes in. And I see Whitney was asking about cupping. So there's zero cupping with this. If you had a solid piece of wood, you would have a lot of troubles with cupping. The engineering, that plywood underneath there adds so much stability that the floor will stay flat under a very wide spectrum of conditions. Yeah, and so that's why I call it the best of both worlds. We have the real woods, but we're replacing that bottom 2/3 with high quality plywoods that just adds a ton of dimensional stability. Allison, I noticed, asked about sanding and refinishing. So Most of the flooring we make is intended for site finishing, so it would be intended to be sanded and finished after installation, and then it can be refinished many times. The 3/16 wear layer that you get, so this wear layer right here, it's kind of hard to see in the camera there, but that gives you about 5 or 6 sandings, depending on how much wear there is per sanding. Depending on the use of the space, that's anywhere from 5 to 20 years between sandings. So that floor can easily last well over 100 years in a space. A lot of the work we do in the forest, we think about carbon sequestration and how do we manage a forest that holds carbon for the long term? How do we play our part in reducing our carbon emissions, and not only reducing them, but absorbing carbon out of the atmosphere, which is a really important thing that forests can do. And to that end, the products we make out of woods, the longer they last, the longer they're going to hold that carbon. This floor will hold carbon for a century, and at least. And so that's important to us, to our business and how we operate, that we are putting products out there into the marketplace that will do their part long term. And so yeah, so the floor can be sanded and finished numerous times. We do offer a pre-finished flooring option, which is good for certain applications. If you need, if you need to install it really quickly, we did a project recently in a lobby where they didn't want the lobby closed for very long. Sanding and finishing adds a day or two to the process. A pre-finished floor is going to go down much quicker. You shorten the lifespan of the floor a little bit because of your micro bevels you get between the floorboards. With a pre-finished floor, there's some disadvantages. There are also some advantages. So we offer that. Most of what we do is a site finished, which is going to be the highest quality, highest performing floor you can get. I'm smiling. Ren asked about the polyway finish. So all of our samples that you'll see have Vermont Natural Coatings polyway on them. That's a finish made in Vermont. It, yes, is a byproduct of the cheese industry. They use whey protein as the polymer binder. It's the main base ingredient, and it smells a little cheesy when you put it on. We like it for our samples. It's really easy to work with. It is just as durable as any of those old super toxic finishes of the 80s and 90s, yet it has 0 VOCs. So that's one option. There's a number of finishes out there that are great for high traffic commercial spaces that have 0 VOCs. So site finishing flooring used to be kind of a thing that people wanted to avoid. These days, technology has really caught up that you can do it without any chemicals and with practically 0 dust, and it goes very fast as well. So jumping to the next slide here, I wanted to show off a little bit. We have in the one picture with the chair, you'll see that's our Oregon ash floor. You can see right here, in addition to working with Oregon oak, we work with Oregon ash and Western bigleaf maple. And each of those 3 species, they're set apart. The oak has its own color and own look. It's the densest of the 3. The Oregon ash is kind of in the middle. It has a density similar to red oak, which is a very common floor species. Density-wise, still holds up quite well under most circumstances, and has a completely different color spectrum. Much lighter. Contrary to eastern ash, it has a lot more, I'm going to call marbling, sort of these darker browns that are kind of come into the sample from our Oregon ash trees, but a really interesting floor. And then Western maple is the 3rd species we work with, which is, I think, the most beautiful of the 3 floors. Western maple has a wide spectrum of color, figure. It's a very light floor. It adds a lot of sunshine to the room. Western maple is fairly soft, so not the best for high traffic commercial spaces, but has a number of great applications. And yeah, Western maple is similar in density to Douglas fir, which, if you've seen any old houses in Portland, they all have old Douglas fir floors. They're 100 years old. They're still there. They last just fine, but they show that those dents and scratches fairly quickly. So this slide in the middle, I just wanted to show an example of an innovative application for our flooring. This is the entryway. This is actually an exterior application, and the floor wraps across the floor. They have gaps for the water to drain through, and then the walls is flooring, and then also the ceiling. It's a complete 360 wrap of that entryway, all with our Oregon white oak flooring. And this was an innovative application. The contractor and builder spent a lot of time engineering this to work in an exterior application, and our engineered flooring really won out there because they were able to keep it tight on the walls in an exterior application. It was covered, so there was no direct moisture, but it was open to the elements. And that was I just wanted to throw that out there. There's a lot of innovative things that can be done with this flooring. Another thing is there's a wide range of applications for this. You can nail it down like a traditional floor, like you see here. The sample, it's a tongue and groove floor, just like any old floor. It can be nailed down. It can be glued down over concrete. We're doing a job right now. It's going over gypcrete. So glue down works really well because of that stability in the engineered flooring. It can be floated. There's a couple of innovative ways to float this floor. It can go down over radiant heat. It can go in below grades basements where there's higher moisture. Like I said, it has a wide spectrum of conditions where it can be installed. And we run this product through a pretty extensive series of testing, testing the glue bonds. We're actually in the process of getting Declare certified through the International Living Future Institutes. And we regularly are testing the glue bonds, bonding the hardwood to the plywoods, just to show that meets our specifications. It's practically a waterproof glue in the plywoods and in the bonds for the plywood to the hardwoods. So spills, high moisture really does not affect the wood at all. It meets all of the California Air Resources Board's EPA and EU specifications for indoor air quality. So, and that's actually some of the testing we're going through right now to prove that, but all the elements meet those requirements already. So it's super non-toxic, not going to emit any off gases into the space. Yet it has an incredible, it performs incredibly well in a wide range of applications. Moving on to the next slides. Wanted to talk briefly. So for another cat, this cat really blends with the floor. And this is our Oregon oak again. Briefly talk about some of the other things we do. You can see the one picture is a coffee shop where we use our Western maple. We do a lot of restaurant interiors, tabletops, wall cladding, bar tops, countertops, things like that. Western maple is a great application in some of the more decorative places because it's beautiful, but it has a lower density. So not necessarily for flooring, but for tabletops or other walls or things like that. I wanted to show you here. This is I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but we do a end grain butcher block tops for counters and bars and tables, whatever the application would be. We do a lot of those. There's my sample here. So this is an end grain, our side grain maple butcher block as well. So we do those, and yeah, I see pricing between the species. The pricing for flooring is the same across all three species. So we've flattened out our pricing. So basically all our flooring options are the same price. You get to decide which one works the best for you on the merits of the wood and not the merits of the price. And so, yeah, that was my presentation. I just did a whole lot of talking, but happy to open it up for more questions we have left.
That was great. Thanks so much, Ben. Super interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, you guys, if there's any other questions, drop them into the chat now. Just to remind you really quick that a copy of this recording will be sent to everybody after we wrap up today. And that tomorrow our snack break is going to be with Hillary Noah from Freeform, so tune in. You can go to our events page at tothesource.com to register for upcoming source breaks or snack breaks, or watch archive videos there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and just a plug,
Are there any other
samples,
questions?
sign up at Source. You can order samples straight from Source. We ship next day, so we definitely happy to send samples out. And we are not currently doing forest tours. We're not doing much of anything right now as far as working with the general public, but we will definitely be doing tours again in the future. Look us up, get on the list, and talk about tours. And yes, we do offer FSC certification in most of our species most of the time. It depends on whether we have access to the credits at that particular time. But we are FSC certified and happy to work with FSC projects.
Awesome. Cool. Well, if there's no other questions, thanks so much, Ben. That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you. This was really fun. Nice break from get to see people and interact with the world.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Happy snacking. Go play some Scrabble. Have a good week.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.